Okay, well, welcome everyone to our Culture First Global Chapter event. My name's Jessie Jacob, and I am your host for today. Um, this session is called Beyond Biases, Crafting Meaningful Workplace Relationships. Let's see, my screen is not sharing. Why is that? Beep, boop, 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 boop. Technical difficulties. Now I'm getting like the MacBook Wheel of Death, if anyone's familiar with that. The rainbow Wheel of Death, where it's just like, there we go. This is what's happening. All right, let's see. Can you all, why is it? It's loading. Can you see this now? Great. Fantastic. All right. Anyways, so welcome to Beyond Biases, Crafting Meaningful Workplace Relationships. My name is Jessie Jacob, the host. I run our Culture First Global chapters here at Culture Amp. Today, I'm super excited to collaborate with Make Believe Works. So we have Lara Storm and Carrie Staller here. Just super grateful that they are collaborating with us to bring this content to you all. We are at the Culture First community. We're always looking for amazing facilitators and experienced designers to collaborate with. And so looking forward to bringing this session to you all. Let's see a little bit about what is the Culture First community. If this is your first time here, or maybe it's not, it's always a refresher. We are a group of people around the world united in the shared belief that a better world of work is possible. And I'll go one step further and say, and by golly, we are willing to do something about it. We at Culture Amp like to define our community with the Cultureverse community is where people, leaders, and change agents come together to be inspired by their peers, to ideate and to share best practices on this mission to create a better world of work. We need each other. This work is freaking hard, and there's lots of work to do, and we need to share ideas and best practices with one another. We have 5 core principles that hold all of our 100 plus global chapters. We have 12,000 community members now at this point. And these are the 5 core principles. This is the glue that holds us all together and how we are asking you all to show up when you're in the context of our gatherings. The first one around fostering belonging and acceptance. We're all about creating spaces, environments where people feel like they can be seen, valued, and appreciated for just showing up and being themselves. We are all about having the willingness to reflect and grow. If we are on this mission to transform the future of work, that goes to transforming our organizations, but that starts with us being the change we want to see in the world. The third core principle is having the courage to be vulnerable. So this idea of we're constantly wearing masks at work, and if you're willing to take off, one or two of your masks, these identities that make you who you are, it gives someone else permission to be themselves, be a little more human at work, and it creates more trust and psychological safety to do this meaningful work. The fourth core principle is putting learning into action. We hope that this content doesn't just go in one ear and out the other. We want this to be an experience for you all, and then to be able to take this and implement it into the way that you work, whether it's at an organization or in-house, or maybe you're doing consulting, hoping it inspires you to take action and do something with it. And then the last core principle that makes our community unique and special is connection inside, business outside. So it's a fancy way of saying that in the context of this gathering, we're here to connect on the inside first as human beings. And if that leads to us doing business later, that's cool. But like networking and, trying to sell people on things is not the primary purpose of the gathering. We're here to meaningfully do work together. Community happens in a lot of different places. So obviously our chapters program, we have a digital Slack community. If you're not in there, we highly recommend it. Culture First Global, our virtual conference, is back with Esther Perel headlining on May 14th, or if you're in APAC, May 15th. We have a podcast that you can check out. We have a newsletter. There's lots of different ways to stay involved with our community. And some quick announcements here. We're going to be at Transform for any of you folks that want to join us in Las Vegas in a few weeks. We're having a book club around In Her Own Voice, around overcoming the challenges of a career advancement for women. If you want to join us on March 5th. Like I said, Culture First Global is back on May 14th/15th. Esther Perel headlining our keynote. and always opportunities to join our People Geek Slack community to keep this momentum going. All right, you've heard enough from me. I want to hand it off to our facilitators. I'm so excited about this session with you all. We've had a lot of our chapters, our individual chapters have hosted this gathering before, and we have had rave reviews about it. So excited to bring this to the masses. And this is just going to be a fun way for us to like meaningfully connect with one another. And then you'll be inspired to take these tools and resources back to your organizations. No doubt about it. All right. So handing it over to Lara Storm. Thank you so much for collaborating with us. This is so cool. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you, Jessie. Thanks so much for having us. Thank you, Culture First Global, for inviting us to join you all today. We've really been looking forward to spending some time together with you all today. So before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that this is a particularly difficult time for many of us and for much of the world. But we're really glad that you've taken the time to join us, and we hope that this activity will be a healthy and nourishing moment for everyone. So I'm Lara Storm. I'm joined by my colleague, Carrie Stoller, who will be helping out behind the scenes for this activity. So here's the plan for today. So first, I'm going to give you a quick overview of who we are and what we do, and then I'll lay out today's activity, and so you know what to expect. And then we'll jump in and connect with each other in a slightly unusual way for about 40 minutes or so, after which we'll come back together and we'll share some of the thinking behind the session and how you might take some of what we've learned back into your own work cultures. Okay, great. So Make Believe Works grew out of the creative playdates that our co-founder, Ben, originally started when he worked at a design and innovation firm called IDEO, which some of you may know. And it was a way to fuel a workplace culture with trust, with connection, and with generous collaboration. And he built each session by taking insights he'd gleaned from psychology, from philosophy, from art therapy and design thinking, and mixing them with an easy and playful creative activity. So everything from finger paints to holograms to digital collage. And they're designed to be an easy, fun way to help people connect in meaningful ways, to get vulnerable without feeling exposed, and to take the risks worth taking. And so we eventually spun these sessions off into our own team building company. And now we work with organizations all over the world, hosting everything from 60-minute remote workshops to full day in-person offsites, helping teams to bridge silos, build morale, and reconnect with a sense of purpose. So that's us. And today we're excited to share an activity with you called Super Secret. Now, before we begin, I have to ask you a favor. I know that many of us tend to multitask during webinars. I've listened to many a webinar while doing the dishes or getting my kids out the door. I get it. But that won't work for this one. This is about real connection. And for that to work, we need you to be up for connecting. So we need everyone who's here to be present and involved. And this won't be like a cooking show where you can sit back and watch someone else do all the chopping. For the next 40 minutes or so, we're asking you to roll up your sleeves and join us in the kitchen. In fact, I'm sorry to say this, but if you don't think you have the bandwidth or the energy or the interest to give this a try, then it's best if you sign off and give the other stuff your full attention. Honestly, no hard feelings. And please stay in touch because we do have more webinars coming up that you can join when you're not so busy. It's just that we're going to be pairing people up for this activity. And if you go someone midway through, it's just not fair to them. And also, since we're a big group, I don't want to give Carrie a heart attack while she's pairing people up for the breakout room. So we really want everyone to have a good time. Now, we know that this may feel like a lot to throw at you first thing, but we promise that this is a very light and fun exercise. And according to the feedback we've gotten from participants, very worth sticking around for. So if being present won't work for you today, thanks so much for tuning in, but do please sign up now because Carrie is going to start pairing people up while I give out the instructions. Okay, so with that said, what are we going to be doing together today? So today's activity is pretty straightforward. You're going to have a conversation with someone, and that's the heart of it. But of course, there's a slight twist to keep it interesting. No names, no faces, no voices, no identifying characteristics at all. You're only going to communicate via the chat feature when you're in the breakout room. And you and your partners are going to start off as anonymous mysteries to the other. But this isn't about solving that mystery. It's not about finding clues to figure out who they are. It's sort of the opposite. Embrace the anonymity. Just listen, just share. This is about building a connection based on character rather than characteristics, on meaning instead of appearances. And really just enjoy the anonymity while it lasts, because we will be turning our videos back on at the end. But initially, just assume that this is a kind, generous person who's here to connect with you. So for your part, be generous with what you share, be thoughtful about how you respond, be kind, basically just be yourselves. And the more you give, the better the experience will be for your partners. So here's how this is going to work. We're going to invite you all into breakout rooms in pairs, but you're not going to know who you're being paired with. And remember, no names, no faces, no voices, no biographical clues in the chat. And if you haven't renamed yourself yet with a superhero name, please do that now and turn off your mics and your cameras. I'm going to be posting 5 prompts every 5 minutes for you to discuss in the chat. So you get 5 minutes to share responses in the chat and let the conversation grow from there. And after 5 minutes, I'll post the next prompt and you'll move on to that one. And the prompts are going to ask you to share a secret part of you. But don't worry, they're pretty light secrets. No PIN codes or passcodes. They're secrets in the sense that they're not the sort of thing just anyone will know about you. So for example, the prompt might be, talk about the most meaningful birthday present you ever received. Or, why did you love your favorite song when you were 15? All right, so now if you haven't yet, please make yourself anonymous right now. And we can't start until everyone has done that. So that means changing your screen name. And I'd love it if you would rename yourself with a silly made up superhero name that reflects some aspect of yourself. So people in the past have used mindful mind, super mouse, quantum questioner, whatever feels fun for you. And Carrie will drop the instructions in the chat about how to do that if you're not sure how. And remember, we're going to be doing this all by typing into the chat when you get into your breakout room. So please, please, please keep your mics and your video off for the first portion of the activity. And I'm going to pause here and see if you have any questions. You can put them in the chat or raise your hand. All right. Good. All right, so it may take a few minutes to get all of the breakout rooms in order. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share the first question that you're going to talk about once you get into your breakout rooms. And I'm going to share it in the chat right now so you can start thinking about what you're going to tell. All right, so the first question is, it's about your favorite stuffed animal from when you were young. Or if you didn't have a stuffed animal, then maybe your blankie or a toy or whatever. What was its name? What did it look like and feel like? What made it special to you? So think about that. Maybe even think about who gave it to you. And I'm going to check in with Carrie to see if we're ready with the breakout rooms.
We're ready. I'm going to open the rooms.
Awesome. All right. Have fun, everyone.
Sorry. All right. Welcome back, everyone. All right, looks like now we've got everybody coming back. Welcome back. All right, I want to share a little bit about why we designed what we did. So I hope that it was fun getting to know each other under such odd circumstances. The first time we did this was through the mail, actually, and it was between 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds at the very height of the COVID pandemic in 2020. So for them, the reveal was really something to see. But I'm guessing your reveal wasn't quite so dramatic. But I'm curious, let us know in the chat, how did your partner line up with the mental image you'd crafted? And while you start sharing your thoughts, I wanted to chat a little bit about those odd circumstances that we created just now. So feel free to type your comments in the chat while I share a little bit about what this was all about. So according to the people who study joy and happiness for a living, one of the key factors that determines our personal and professional happiness is meaningful connection with other people. However, as we all know, being with other people is not the same as being connected with them, at least not in a meaningful way. Yet what you've let yourself do here, dropping your guard a bit, letting someone else see some of the secret parts of your life, and maybe more importantly, letting them be seen by you, that's the dynamic that really makes the difference. That's what feels meaningful connection. So there are 3 main pieces to the design of Super Secret that help facilitate that sort of connection. There's anonymity, vulnerability, and play. So why anonymity? So our brains can't help but build shortcuts, right? It's what they do. Sometimes it's really helpful. It saves us a lot of time, and sometimes it's not. So it's impossible for us to look at someone else without registering somewhere in our psyche, same, different. Now, how we value that sameness and difference, that's obviously the piece that matters. But even the best intended judgment is often more subtle, nuanced, and ingrained than we can control or sometimes even recognize. So one of the key hallmarks of this moment in our history, as a country and even as in the world, is how we perceive difference, right? And this is an incredibly fraught question with 2 main currents running through it. So a desire to focus on what we have in common and a desire to focus on what makes us unique. And while these 2 are not inherently mutually exclusive, anger, fear, ignorance, and frustration often reduce them to enemies. And we see this play out every day. Now, we can't solve that, certainly not in 40 minutes, but part of the benefit of this activity is to celebrate both of those strengths a bit and use that as a way of connecting more deeply with each other. So the freedom of anonymity encourages partners to speak authentically without tailoring their stories to their audience, since they don't know who their audience is. Now, why vulnerability? The personal stories allow finding common ground in shared feelings, because at the very core, we all share many of the same stories, just told in our own unique ways because of our own unique context. And we all know what it feels like to have our hearts broken or to get a hug when we really need it. And yet our stories are all our own. All of our make-believe works activities are crafted around a principle called safe danger. And this is a balance between reassuring people that they're on steady, familiar, emotional ground and in control of the situation. And on the other hand, using that trust to push them a little beyond their comfort zones, a little outside their expected behaviors, so that they can surprise themselves in new and useful ways. So for this activity, we build on the work of psychologist Arthur Aaron, who studied the sort of stories and beliefs that people need to share to feel close to one another. Now, Dr. Aaron got this down to 36 questions. We don't have that sort of time, so we broke down the themes at work and came up with our own 5 that are highly personal, but low risk. So highly personal, so who else in your life knows about your stuffed animal? But at the same time, who cares, right? Hence, low risk. And we anchored it in something joyful, went on to something vulnerable,
and then allow the two of you to claim and name your own bond, making it real and bringing it into consciousness. And then the poem is a way of making everyone feel seen and recognized, and to do something with all the information you just took in that makes it your own. So that's anonymity and vulnerability. Now, why play? This is the part that's most easily and most often dismissed, right? But it's the glue that holds it all together. It lightens the mood, it relaxes the defenses, and lets you just be you without worrying about impressing other people or maintaining the carefully crafted image we typically perform for strangers. The playful dynamic lowers the bar for engagement. And it's the combination of those three concepts, anonymity, vulnerability, and play, that we found that can help quickly build connections founded on meaning rather than appearance. And we've run this with DEI teams to help reflect on bias. We've used it with remote teams to help people get to know each other. We've used it with alumni groups who want to get beyond small talk. So what does this mean for you and your teams? I think the biggest takeaway that I've heard from doing this is that feeling is more impactful than listening. As opposed to training sessions that are often more intense and targeted, and I'm not saying that those sessions are not valuable, but what we found again and again is that we're much more successful when we go with the experience rather than explaining, as well as targeting the personal beneath the professional. And when you keep everything at a professional level, it's harder to make meaningful change as opposed to performative adjustments. So if you can touch the personal and make people feel something, you'll find it goes much further. So if you're looking for advice on how to engage your own people, here are 3 pointers that we use. So we make it fun. I've heard about too many workshops that were just about worksheets. Make it personal, but not cheesy. It has to be authentic. And make it rewarding. If you can build in a meaningful takeaway, in this case, it's a new friend, but it could be a creative artifact, a renewed sense of purpose, or maybe it's just feeling good about themselves. But if you can anchor your message to the joy centers of the brain, you're more likely to make your message stick. All right. So you've heard a lot from us. And what I'd like to do now is to hear from you. So how was this experience from your end? Did anyone feel like they connected with their partner in a way that surprised you? And feel free to share in the chat, or if you'd like to raise your hand and share, that's totally welcome too. But yeah, how was this experience for you?
I'll share.
Great.
I was surprised. It really took the focus on sort of discriminating, like seeing who this person is or making those prejudgments, and just took that all away, and put us both on like an even blank slate playing field. So it was super fun to just allow that to all happen.
Great, thank you for sharing. All right, Spider Woman, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I really appreciated the exercises and the series in which the questions were posed, because it started being like a little bit more surface level, and then we dug deeper and deeper. So I felt comfortable with that progress.
Great, so you appreciated that arc. Thank you. And now, Well-Being Seeker, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so when we had connected, we resonated. There were so many similarities. It was like, who just like seen inside of our heads and the connections that we had. It was pretty exciting. It was fun.
Oh yeah, thanks for sharing that. And it's so funny, we often get comments of people like, how did you know to put us together? We were both adopted, or we both have siblings in this city. And it just happens. It's just incredible what we find in common with one another. All right, Sarah, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it was a nice prompt because I think inherently we ask people like, what's your name? Like, where do you live? What do you do? And there's so much more to a person than just those basic questions that we tend to go toward. So it was nice to meet this person through a different lens than I normally would meet somebody.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sarah. I'm curious, how was it to have a poem written for you? Has anybody ever written you a poem before? It's a little awkward, yeah.
Okay, it was also hard.
It's hard, yes.
I really enjoyed the like reminder if, you know, for those of you who haven't been in 5th grade at the very end, I was like, yeah, thank you for I loved having a poem written for me. My partner, I felt like very seen, and that was a really cool feeling to have. And I actually used ChatGPT to write my poem for my partner. And it was still, I mean, like, it was still a great poem. Then I was able to like tweak it a little bit, but it was fun to be able to use that too.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mad Marathoners, you have your hand raised.
Yeah. And for those of you who think I am a marathoner, I'm running my first one in November. So that's why I'm mad. So I have to agree that it was, and I apologize for the background noise. I'm sitting out on the lakefront. And I did feel very seen, and it was just so honoring and so sweet and so special. I don't think anybody's ever written a poem for me, and it was heartwarming.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
And just really quickly, for all of you women, it's called Every Woman's Marathon. So from the slowest to the fastest, Every Woman's Marathon in November on my 60th birthday. So come join me.
Awesome. Where is it happening?
Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, nice. All right. Anyone else want to share their thoughts, their experience? What you're taking away, maybe what are you taking away from this experience?
I was also wondering if anyone else felt like they were editing themselves a little bit more because it was through chat. I don't know if anyone else had that experience, but for me personally, I was like, one of the questions came up and I was like, well, do I want to answer this way? And like just typing it added an extra layer of, for me at least, rather than just like stream of consciousness, like blurting something out, which I thought was just an interesting dynamic for myself. Oh, some people felt the opposite. Yeah, that was interesting. I don't know.
I just want to pop in and say I thought it was so freeing to be able to have a context where you're just open and generous. Like that was what the whole thing led me towards, which was just warmth and kindness. And when I think about the prompts, you know, they weren't necessarily skewed that way, but somehow the chatting and then this sort of like I'm in, you know, like you ask people to leave if they really weren't going to do it, and so it was this obligation to really like participate, which I think you know sort of prompted the connection too. Anyway, I really enjoyed it, and super relation superhero is just such a cool cat, so I'm glad we got to meet.
Lovely. Thank you so much. All right, Sam, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the activity. I think it was really interesting as a single person who's been spending a lot of time on dating sites lately. I wish they would do that on a dating app because it's so superficial where everybody just looks at pictures and it's like you're trying to make a connection with someone, but it's hard. And anyway, but it was a really great activity and I really enjoyed it. I did have a really hard time with the poem. Not, I mean, I know what my verbs and nouns and adjectives are, but I just found I don't want to put an adjective there. I want to put a noun there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think I would have been more comfortable writing my own poem other than trying to fit into that. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is I am actually dyslexic, so sitting there typing everything, I felt sorry for my partner because there were a lot of typos and a lot of spelt words. But she did really well at deciphering my mess, and it was great. I really liked connecting with her.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing that, Sam. All right, Spirit Sister, you have your hand raised.
Yes, hi, thanks for having us. I had an introspection that I noticed about myself going through the exercise, and then I had a question for you leaders. So kind of along the lines of what Jessie was saying, I think that as I was going through, I wasn't exactly editing myself, but it was really hard without the audio visual clues to know, okay, is my partner done writing? Should I jump in? I want to empathize. So we started getting creative with the emojis and, you know, the, hey, do you want to go first? And all right, so that the conversation felt a little more structured than I would have liked. I usually also word vomit things. So that felt a little constricting, which was just something that I noticed. I think the question, it's kind of along the lines of what Pup Mama was saying. Everyone's here. We all opted in. We're all excited about connectivity. How do you take something like this exercise into a team that's maybe stressed out and overworked and feeling a little burnt and make this a really enriching experience for those of us who want to bring this back to a work?
Well, I don't know that with this activity, what we often do is we make sure that we understand the teams and what the current dynamics are so that we choose the right activity. This activity does require some presence and it requires some vulnerability. And there may be teams that aren't quite ready for that. So we'll start them off with something maybe a little lighter, a little bit more playful, and then we can work up to something like this. For the most part, what I've seen is this is a great activity for onboarding or for bringing new teams together, to be able to get to know each other and kind of and also pre-offsite. So we've done this activity before a group is coming together in person so that they have at least one friend that they already have an established connection with once they get to the offsite in person. But it really does depend on the current dynamics, and we have to be, extra aware of what, what we're working with and what level of vulnerability people are ready for. All right. Any other thoughts? Super relationship builder.
Hello. I did think it was wonderful, but also to answer one of the questions that the person say, how do you do this with an established team? I've done things where you don't talk about work. There's an exercise called crossing the lines, where you're silent and you're not talking and you're communicating in other ways by learning about others. But there's tons of different prompts similar to this that just by going to one side of the room versus the other, you just learn about people in so many ways. So there are ways to do things, even if you already have an established team out there, is what I want to kind of pass along. So, but I guess my question also is, I loved this and I loved the anonymity and all of that, but it also leads me, being a relationship builder, to want to continue the connection. And so where do we go from here in terms of knowing that all of us have this shared experience of I think almost everybody saying a positive experience, but to continue this conversation, because now we don't know who each other is. So
that is a very good segue into, Carrie just shared a spreadsheet. So we hear lots of stories about people meeting up afterwards. So we created a spreadsheet to allow all of the people that want to stay connected with their partners. They can go in, they can put their superhero name, they can put their real name. If they want to share their LinkedIn or their email address, that's where you can go to connect with your partner. Yeah. And somebody mentioned, I was just looking at a comment. It seems like this works better virtually than in person for obvious reasons. So we have actually 2 different versions of this. So this is the online version. We do it in an hour or an hour and a half. And then I mentioned a little earlier, the very first iteration of this was through the mail, actually. And so it went over a series of weeks, and we paired people up, and they would answer questions, and they would draw pictures, and they would send it in the mail. And so through that course, it kind of developed this sort of really sweet anticipation, especially with the seniors and also with the 3rd graders. They were just really excited to get the next answer to the question, and through the end, it kind of built up this incredible momentum. And then they turned on their cameras, and here they were, 80-year-olds and 8-year-olds coming together and connecting in a really meaningful way. And they ended up staying in touch with their partners over the course of a few years. So, but yeah, there are 2 different versions. But yes, in person, it actually has a really nice, like that slow version of doing it over the course of a few weeks actually kind of increases or deepens the connection even more. All right. Yeah, I love all these comments. My partner commented at one point that it felt like a pen pal experience from the 90s. Yeah, somebody also mentioned like those of us who used the AOL Instant Messenger back in the day. So anyway, thank you all for joining us. Just a couple, I know Carrie shared the spreadsheet with you all if you wanted to stay connected with your partners. And we also really love to know how people feel about spending time with us. So we have a survey. It should only take 10 seconds, and it just means the world to us to get your feedback. So I'm gonna share the survey, if you wouldn't mind just clicking on that, so you have it up and answering the few questions that we have. And there's one last slide that I wanted to share. I just wanted to let you know we've got a few more activities coming up, and just wanted to share those with you. We try and do as many activities as possible to get people to experience our workshop. So in the next couple of months, we've got an activity in partnership with Think Human and Culture First Bay Area, and we're going to be doing an activity with them, and the theme is called Flex Your Style. It's going to take place on April 11th. Timing is TBD, but we'll be announcing that here in the next couple of days. We're going to be in Toronto at the Administrative Professionals Conference on June 16th and 17th. So we'll be doing a 3-hour workshop and a 1-hour symposium there. And then we're going to be coming back to Culture Summit in October in San Diego. So with that, I will hand it back over to Jessie. Thank you all for showing up and for playing along. I'm so just thrilled to hear your experiences, and thank you so much for sharing. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Can we all come off mute and like give a round of applause for Lara and Carrie? Like, thank you so much.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
That was
That was
fantastic.
really great.
Thank you.
Cool. Like, what a unique experience that, like, I mean, like 99% of our Zoom or whatever team meetings don't get to have this kind of interaction. So thank you for setting this up and like having the framework for all this. What a cool way to engage with one another. Well, like I said, there's I'll just like reiterate some of the announcements that are basically happening. If you want to join us at Transform, that's happening in mid-March. Our community has a $200 off discount if you would like to join us for that. If you're not already in our Slack community, please join us in the People Geek Slack community. There's tons of ideas and resources and jobs and events and lots of cool things that are happening in there. If you're not already in that community, our book club is happening on March 5th with a book called In Her Own Voice. So really looking forward to that. It's in collaboration with a company called Linkage, which is owned by SHRM. So all about how do we support women in advancing their careers. And then Culture First Global, our virtual conference, is back on May 14th/May 15th with Esther Perel as our keynote speaker. So you'll get lots of information about all of that, I'm sure. But we're really excited to have her back and be an advisor with us in the community. So that's it for me. I'm going to lead us in a clap out. This is a very culture first way of saying goodbye. Feel free to steal this and use it with your teams. It's just a fun way to sign off your meetings. Carrie, you're the host. So what's going to happen is we're going to all come off mute and Lara's going to count us to 3. She's going to say 1, 2, 3. We're all going to clap. And then you're going to press end on the Zoom meeting and it's just going to shut off and we're going to get out of here. Oh, I'm the host now. Okay, great. I'll do it. All right. So everyone come off mute. What's going to happen? Laura's going to count us to 3. She's going to go 1, 2, 3, clap. And then the meeting's just going to shut off. Okay. Everyone feel good about this? Okay. Fantastic. Thank you all for being here. What a treat. Thank you, Lara and Carrie, for leading us today. Count us to 3, Lara.
All right. 1, 2, 3.